So, dear listeners and organizers of the Tactile Reading Conference, my name is Sirli Lellep, and I am a special education teacher from Estonia. I have worked with visually impaired children for 4 years, so not that long. So this conference is a great learning opportunity for me. Thank you all. Today, I'm here to tell you about my experience with teaching a blind child. I will introduce you a study I conducted in Estonia and present you the results. I will also show you some video materials about my study and comment them as we go on. I started my study in September 2014. As the study was part of my master thesis, I had a supervisor, Emajõe, and she has worked with visually impaired and blind children for decades. Her thoughts and advice were very useful for me and important since I was a beginning teacher in the visually impaired. I also had a co-supervisor, Kaja Plado, who helped me form my master thesis and gave insight to children's reading and writing abilities. Together with Anne, we conducted a qualitative study that began in September 2014, and the study ended in March 2015. The aim of the study was to describe and supplement methodology to teach Estonian blind children necessary skills in written language, and also to compose worksheets that could be used to teach Braille to blind children in Estonia. Since it was a qualitative study, the main ways for gathering the information were observation and reliance on practical methods. In the theoretical part of my study, I also analyzed and compared different Braille teaching methodologies in foreign countries and in Estonia. There were several reasons for my study. Firstly, there are plenty of materials on how to teach Braille in English, but unfortunately, there were only a few printed materials on how to teach Braille in Estonian. Secondly, the study was conducted in the hope of helping young teachers in Estonia who haven't previously taught blind children, as that was the case for me when I first started. Thirdly, my hope was that the study might also be helpful for those teachers in preschools and in mainstream schools that have no previous experience with visually impaired children, but who have a blind child in their classroom. This is an important topic in Estonia since we are moving towards inclusive education system. So, the study began. And the study began by finding a suitable candidate. The best match was a child who was 5 years, 5 months old when we started the study. She had no other disabilities besides blindness and had never learned Braille before. She knew that Braille consisted of cells that had 6 dots, but did not know any of the letters or other characters in Braille. Since the child was not totally blind, she did, however, knew many print letters before we started our study. So the study began, and Emajõe, who I mentioned before, was the teacher and held most of the lessons, with the exception of 2, which were held by myself. Altogether, 17 lessons were held. During the teaching process, my main job was to observe, protocol, and film the child's progress. The Braille lessons were held once a week, 60 minutes per time. Firstly, the child's abilities were determined, and on the ground of that information, a teaching plan was made. During that time, it also became clear that the child had developed all the necessary skills for reading and writing. The first lesson was mainly meant for introduction of Braille and for developing different cognitive processes. Different ways were used to introduce Braille cells for the child. For example, the openable Braille cells that previous speaker showed, and also a self-made tool from a carton, and so on. It became clear that the child was very motivated to learn and felt joy as the lessons progressed. During the first lesson, the child also had to bear different textiles and textures, put together a tactile puzzle, and got to examine a tactile book. Some simple exercises were also made for introducing reading and writing in Braille and to start training the child's fingers. Those included finding a longer or shorter row from Braille dots, finding different patterns or characters from the line of dots, and so on. All the exercises I have described were playful and designed for the child. The aim of the second lesson was to increase the strength and sensitivity of the fingers. A simple Estonian song was designed for that and introduced to the child. From this point on, the song was a warm-up exercise in the lessons before starting reading and writing. This lesson also included exercises for developing different cognitive processes. For example, we used puzzles, a tactile dice game, and so on. All these exercises were later used in most of the lessons that were held as an introduction or warm-up. The Perkins Brailler was also introduced during the second lesson. Third lesson consisted on getting to know the Braille alphabet and searching pairs from Braille letters and printed tactile letters. That was possible since the child had already mastered most of the letters in print. Starting from the fourth lesson, a Braille letter, or two depending on the child's abilities and motivation, was taught in each lesson. The first letter to be taught was A. The child had to find the tactile printed A. She then could feel how the A was marked in Braille and got to play with Braille cells and got to search letter A from other characters. She also got to write letter A on Perkins Brailler. All of this was once again done playfully and keeping in mind the child's interests. Following lessons were similar to the fourth lesson. In each lesson, the child repeated previously learned letters and was then introduced a new Braille letter. After that, the child got to read and write in Braille. From the fifth lesson on, the letters that were taught to the child were also used to create meaningful words that the child could read and type. For example, the fifth lesson was meant to teach the letter L in Braille. Together with letter A that was taught previously, the child could already read and write 3 words in Estonian: all, alla, and ala. During this time, the child read and wrote letters with spaces between them. The letters that were taught during the 6-month period time were A, L, K, M, U, R, O, P, V, in that order. By the end of the study, which was in March 2015, the child knew previously the letters that I mentioned previously. She could read and write them in Braille. So I'm now going to show you So I'm now going to show you a video clip where the child is laying out the words in Braille. She's using the Braille board that the previous speakers also showed you. And she fills the cells one by one. In this video, the child is laying down the word kool, which means school in Estonian. And she has a previous word komm, which means candy. And she starts to analyze, with my help, which letters from that previous word she can keep and which ones she needs to change.
Lao nüüd sõna kool ja mõtle nüüd, millist häälikut su suu siin kinni hoiab.
You can't see it. I can see it in my laptop.
Kui sõna on pamp, mis sõnas esimene?
On põh.
Jaa. Mis põhipunkt?
Yeah, this one.
Lao nüüd sõna kool ja mõtle nüüd, millist häälikut su suu siin kinni hoiab. Kool.
You still can't see it?
Jaa, mitu oot siis kirjutad?
Sorry. Yeah.
Lao nüüd sõna kool ja mõtle nüüd, millist häälikut su suu siin kinni hoiab. Kool.
Ood.
Jaa, mitu oot siis kirjutad?
Nii, las see jääb.
So she's saying that the K is
Nii, siin
in the
on
right
olemas.
place. There's O.
Down.
Now she puts another O.
See tuleb ka siia alla teha.
Nii, avata, mis sa nüüd kirjutasid?
Kõh.
She's checking.
O.
Mis sa kirjutasid?
So she now realized that she put down the letters K, O, O, O. And here's her reaction.
Ütle, mis sa kirjutasid?
Ko.
Mis läks valesti?
Kahti.
So now I asked what went wrong.
Jaa.
See tuli
She said that she needs the letter L in the last cell.
Mul on see kool.
Nii, aga Emmi punktid palun.
So this was the first video. So you could see that she easily detected that the letter K, which was the first one, she could keep that, didn't need to change. Also the letter O was intact. And now she realized that there is two O's in this word kool. So she put down two O's and also put down the third O for the last letter. But she realized her mistake and corrected herself. So I think this video that I showed is a perfect example of the child's analytical skills. When she first started the Braille learning, this kind of exercise was somewhat hard for her. She always had to, when she had to lay down the word, she removed all the dots from the previous words and started all over again. So in this video, which is filmed near the end of my study, she has become more efficient and doesn't remove all the dots, but analyzes which ones she can keep, which ones she can easily change. So I also have the second one. Sorry. Yep. So in the second video, you can see how the child writes, and she writes in a smaller Braille, she doesn't use the Perkins Braille. She writes the word kum, which means rubber, and writes the word comma, which means comma in English. The child, and you can see that she is pressing really hard for the keys. That's because the previous words that she wrote didn't come out correctly because she was pressing too lightly.
Kumm.
Kumm.
Jah. See kirjutad kohe ilma abita ära, sa saad hakkama küll. Ma olen täitsa kindel.
Pressing K. U. And pressing two M's.
löö vahele ikka.
Alati kohe vahele.
Koma.
Now the word comma.
Viruta ära see koht.
Kummipea on olemas.
On kindlasti.
So at this point she made a joke that the character Rubberhead, kummipea, is real, and that's what makes her laugh at the point.
Äkki lõpus on komapea ka või?
So maybe there is also a comma head, she's saying.
Ei, O, koma.
So the letter K, O.
Oh.
She's correcting her fingers quite a bit to place it correctly on the brailler.
No, komapea.
She only has the letters K and O at this point. Realizes she needs letter M.
Oot, mis võrme sa sinna vasak.
And also letter A. So that was it. Yeah. So these two videos were filmed in March 2015. And although my study ended there, the child's progress did not. She continued with her lessons until summer break. In September 2015, she started her school path in the first grade. As I was now her teacher, I knew the background with Braille and could plan the further teaching. As the child had already previously learned all the Braille letters, I decided we should repeat the letters following the order in the spelling book that the other visually impaired classmates were learning from. That way, the blind child got to repeat the Braille letters as well as printed letters. She could also use her sight when possible, for example, some reading exercises with big enlargement. And she didn't get the feeling of being treated any different than other classmates. The last aspect was really important because the child struggled with learning Braille in a classroom where others did not have to learn it. During the first few weeks, it became clear to me that the child had forgotten most of the letters during summer break. That is only natural since she previously had only one Braille lesson per week. So once again, we started with the letter learning process, following the same footsteps as the year before, when I conducted my study. By December 2015, she had mastered the Braille alphabet once again and was now able to read and write in Braille. In September 2016, the child started second grade. She can now fluently read and write Braille. All of her learning materials are tactile or in Braille, but in some cases we try to use any little sight she has left. Learning Braille in a classroom where others are not learning it is no longer a problem for her. She can easily keep pace with her visually impaired classmates and is sometimes even quicker than them. In conclusion, I would like to say that I know her path in mastering Braille is only in the beginning, but I am sure in the following years she will become a skilled student. I am very grateful that I can be a part of her journey, and although I am the teacher, I often feel she and her classmates have taught me more than I could have imagined. Thank you all.
Does anybody have questions for Sirli? Anybody? No? I have a question.
Okay.
Do you know where this child lives?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can I get her contacts?
You can. I'm her teacher.
Constantly searching for participants for my research. Okay.
Yeah, you can. I'm her
Lovely.
teacher.
Oh, brilliant. Then we can talk about it later. So, no more questions? Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
Sirli.
you.
And so the next speaker is